The wind howled. Snow whipped across the empty highway. And there she was, Emma Carter, hunched beside a stranger's broken-down car, her fingers numb, her breath fogging in the freezing air. She didn't know his name, didn't know his story. But what Emma couldn't imagine was that the old man she stopped to help in the middle of a snowstorm owned every gas station for miles around. What would you do if the person you helped secretly held the keys to your future? Emma Carter tightened the scarf around her neck as the snow swirled harder, cutting visibility down to barely a few feet. Her old pickup rattled along the empty stretch of Highway 16, the heater coughing out lukewarm air. She glanced at the dashboard, almost out of gas. "Just a few more miles," she whispered, willing the truck forward. Then she saw it. A car pulled over on the shoulder, hazard lights blinking weakly through the blizzard. And beside it, a hunched figure was trying to jack up a flat tire, fighting the cold. Emma's heart clenched. No one should be out here alone in this weather. Without hesitation, she pulled over, her tires crunching against the snowbank. "Hey," she called, hopping out. "Do you need help?" The man turned. He was old, maybe late 70s, wearing a threadbare coat and a cap pulled low. His hands trembled on the jack. "Tire blew about 10 miles back," he rasped. "I've been trying for an hour." Emma's eyes widened at the tools scattered uselessly in the snow. "You'll freeze out here," she exclaimed, already grabbing her gloves. "Let me do it." "I can't ask you to," the man began, but Emma cut him off with a grin. "You didn't—" "I volunteered." She dropped to her knees in the snow, ignoring the cold biting through her jeans. The lug nuts were frozen solid. Emma heaved, twisting with all her strength, her breath coming in sharp clouds. Finally, one gave way, then another. Bit by bit, she worked the tire loose. The old man watched silently, his eyes thoughtful. "Most folks just drive by," he murmured. Emma flashed him a wry smile. "Well, I'm not most folks." Minutes passed. Her hands ached. Her cheeks burned from the icy wind. But she didn't stop until the spare was bolted in place. Standing, she wiped her forehead with a snow-crusted sleeve. "There!" she panted. "You're good to go." The old man looked at her for a long moment. Then, slowly, a smile spread across his weathered face. "You didn't have to do that," he said softly. "But you did." Emma shrugged. "Like I said, no one should be left stranded." And as she turned to head back to her truck, the old man's eyes glinted beneath his cap, an expression she didn't catch, but would soon learn had far more behind it than she could have imagined. Emma watched in her rearview mirror as the old man's car slowly pulled back onto the snowy highway, his taillights blinking faintly through the swirling white. She sighed, leaning back in her seat. "Crazy night," she muttered, rubbing warmth back into her numb fingers. But as she turned the key, the truck sputtered, coughed, and died. Emma froze. Tried again. Nothing. "Come on," she whispered desperately. She popped the hood, climbed out, and stared into the maze of frozen metal. Steam hissed from a cracked radiator hose. Her stomach sank. Of all nights, just then, headlights appeared behind her. She shielded her eyes as the familiar car slowed, stopping beside her. The old man rolled down his window. "Everything all right?" he called. Emma forced a laugh. "Looks like I'm the one stranded now." He climbed out, surveying her engine with surprising focus. "Cracked hose," he murmured. "You're not going anywhere tonight. Not in this storm. Emma bit her lip. Yeah, I figured. The old man hesitated. Then, gently, I've got a cabin about 2 miles up the road. You shouldn't stay out here. Come with me. Warm up. Call for help in the morning. Emma hesitated. Every instinct told her not to trust strangers. But the snow was already piling up, the wind howling louder. Staying here wasn't an option. Okay. She nodded. Thank you. He smiled, leading her to his car. As they drove, Emma watched the snow thicken outside, feeling the warmth creep back into her toes. You live out here, she asked. Part-time, he replied cryptically. I travel a lot. This place? It's where I disappear when I need to. Minutes later, they pulled up to a rustic log cabin tucked against the trees, its windows glowing golden with firelight. Inside, it was cozy, a stone fireplace crackling, shelves lined with books and old photographs. Emma sat by the fire, cradling a mug of cocoa the old man had handed her. Thank you again, she murmured. You didn't have to help. He chuckled softly, settling into an armchair. Neither did you. Their eyes met across the flickering light. For a moment, Emma thought she saw something shift in his gaze, something deeper than gratitude. But before she could ask, he spoke again, his voice quieter now. You know, not many people stop to help anymore. It's rare, and rare kindness deserves to be remembered. Emma smiled tiredly, sipping her cocoa. She didn't know it yet, but tonight wasn't the end of their story. It was just the beginning. Morning light streamed through the cabin's curtains, casting a warm glow over the cozy room. Emma stirred from the couch where she'd fallen asleep, blinking against the brightness. For a moment, she almost forgot where she was until the scent of fresh coffee and sizzling bacon reached her. She sat up to find the old man bustling in the small kitchen, whistling softly as he flipped pancakes onto a plate. Morning, kid, he greeted with a grin. Hope you're hungry. Emma smiled shyly. You didn't have to. Nonsense. He waved her off. After last night, you deserve a real breakfast. She joined him at the wooden table, marveling at the spread. Pancakes, eggs, bacon, even a jar of homemade jam. Wow, this feels fancy. He chuckled. Honey, just old habits. As they ate, Emma noticed the photos on the wall more closely. Black and white images of gas stations, bustling crews, and rows of trucks. In every photo, the same figure appeared, sometimes young and grinning beside a fuel pump, sometimes older, shaking hands with men in suits. She frowned. Are these, you? The old man paused, then nodded slowly. Yep, my stations and... Emma blinked. Stations. He sipped his coffee. Used to own a few gas stations. Built them from scratch. Back in the day. One turned into 2. Then 5. Then, well... He gestured vaguely at the photos. Emma's jaw dropped. Wait, you're saying you own a gas station chain? The old man smiled faintly. Owned. Retired now. Let the next generation run things. He leaned back, eyes thoughtful. You'd be surprised how people treat you when they don't know who you are. Emma felt heat rising to her cheeks. Oh my God. Last night, I had no idea. He shrugged. Didn't expect you to... You didn't help me because of who I was. You helped because you're a good person. She looked down at her plate. Heart pounding. I didn't even think twice. That's exactly why it matters, he said quietly. There was a pause, filled only by the crackle of the fireplace. Then he stood, retrieving a small envelope from a drawer. He set it in front of her. "What's this?" Emma asked cautiously. "A thank you," he said simply. "Open it." Inside was a crisp check. Emma's breath caught. The amount made her blink twice. "Sir, I can't accept this," she protested. He smiled kindly. "That's not a request." Emma stared at him, emotions swirling. And in that moment, she realized this wasn't just an old man paying back a favor. This was the start of something she never saw coming. Emma sat frozen, staring at the check in her trembling hands. The number stared back at her $50. Owen and daso det dawas. $1,000. It didn't feel real. I can't take this," she said again, her voice breaking. "It's too much." The old man chuckled softly, sitting across from her. "Too much for what you saved me last night. I was stranded, miles from anyone, in a snowstorm. You didn't know who I was. You didn't owe me anything. But you stopped." Emma swallowed hard. "I didn't stop for a reward." "Exactly." His gaze softened. "That's why you deserve it." She set the check carefully on the table, heart pounding. "But what if someone else needs it more? I'm not anyone special." He leaned forward. "Kid, do you know what I've learned after 70 years in this world?" He tapped the table lightly. "Everyone thinks they're nobody special, until they're given a chance to prove otherwise." Emma's throat tightened. "I wasn't born a business owner," he continued. "I was a broke teenager, washing cars at a gas station. One day, an old man gave me a $500 loan to buy my first pump. No paperwork, no contract, just faith." He smiled wistfully. "That loan changed my life, and every time I tried to pay him back, he'd just laugh. 'Pass it forward, kid,' he'd say. 'One day, you'll meet someone who needs a chance more than money.'" Emma's eyes welled with tears. "I've been waiting a long time to pay it forward," he said quietly. "Last night, I realized you're that someone." She shook her head, emotions crashing over her. "Oh, Babo. Ah. Why me?" He looked at her gently. "Because when life gave you every reason to drive by, you stopped. That says more about you than any resume or diploma ever could." Emma wiped her eyes, overwhelmed. "What do I even do with this?" "That's up to you," he said. "Start school. Fix your car, open a business, or tuck it away for a rainy day. Just promise me one thing." She nodded, lips trembling. "Anything." He smiled. "When the time comes, pass it forward." Emma stared at him, a lump rising in her throat. In that quiet moment, she realized this wasn't just about money. It was about trust, about faith, about the ripple effect of kindness. And as the snow outside finally began to melt, Emma felt something bloom inside her, a hope she hadn't dared to feel in years. Emma sat in her tiny apartment that night, the check resting on the kitchen table like a silent question. She hadn't cashed it. Not yet. She just kept staring at it, running her fingers over the numbers as if they'd disappear. Her phone buzzed. A text from Grace. "Did you really help some old guy on the highway last night? Dad said you're on the news." Emma frowned. "What?" She quickly opened a link Grace sent. There, on the local news website, was a headline. Mystery woman helps. Elderly man in Snowstorm later learns he owns national gas station chain. A blurry security photo from the gas station showed Emma handing the old man a coffee. She covered her face with her hands. Oh no! Her phone buzzed again, this time non-stop. Friends. Acquaintances. Even people she hadn't spoken to since high school. Messages are pouring in. Girl, is this real? Can sa yasa as yasormaide yasur hasur get me a hookup? Yo, you're famous now. Emma felt her stomach twist. Fame wasn't what she wanted. She never stopped to help for attention. But now, strangers were tagging her on social media, speculating, congratulating, and some criticizing. Bet she only stopped because she knew who he was. Gold digger vibes. Emma shut off her phone, heart pounding. She hadn't asked for any of this. She just wanted to do the right thing. A knock at her door startled her. It was Mr. Ashson, her elderly landlord. Emma, I just saw the news, he said, a warm smile on his face. I always knew you were one of the good ones. She blinked back, sudden tears. Thanks, Mr. Carson. He held up an envelope. Rent's on me this month. Consider it a thank you for being a decent human being. She tried to protest, but he waved her off. Don't argue. Just accept it. Sometimes, Emma, good people need a little help too. As he left, Emma sank onto her couch, overwhelmed. She stared at the check again. Suddenly, it wasn't just money. It was a responsibility, a chance, a challenge. She picked up her phone, hesitating, then dialed the old man's number. He answered on the second ring. I don't know what to do with this, she confessed. He chuckled softly. That's the beauty of it, kid. There's no right answer. Just make it count. Emma stared at the city lights beyond her window. For the first time in a long time, she believed she could. The next morning, Emma awoke to the sound of her phone buzzing again, this time with a different kind of notification. Emma, call me. Grace? She rubbed her eyes and called her sister back. Emma Grace's voice was urgent. Turn on Channel 7. He's talking about you. Emma scrambled for the remote, flipping to the news. There he was, Mr. Reynolds, sitting in a studio, wearing that same humble flannel shirt. Silver hair combed back neatly, surrounded by cameras and microphones. I just wanted to say publicly, he told the reporter, that in a world where people pass you by, this young woman didn't. She stopped. She showed kindness without knowing who I was. That's rare these days. Emma's breath caught in her throat. She didn't just fix a tire. Mr. Reynolds continued. She fixed my faith in people. The audience applauded. She's declined interviews so far, and I respect that, he said gently. But I want her to know if she's watching my offer stands. Not just the check. A job. A place in my company. Because people like her, we need more of them. Emma sat frozen. A job. Grace's voice was practically squealing on the phone. Emma. This could change your life. But Emma didn't answer. She stared at the TV, a storm of emotions swirling inside her. Gratitude, fear, pressure. Her inbox was overflowing with more offers, now interviews, endorsements, and podcasts wanting her story. And yet, all she wanted was quiet. She left the apartment, pulling on her coat, and walked to the same gas station. From that night, it looked different in the daylight. Ordinary, no cameras, no spotlight. Inside, she found Luis behind the counter. "Emma?" He grinned. "You're famous." She smiled shyly. "Not really." He poured her a coffee. "You're a hero. You know." "No," Emma said softly. I just helped." Luis leaned over the counter. Serious now. "Not everyone would have stopped. That matters." Emma sipped her coffee, thinking. She stepped outside, feeling the winter sun on her face. Her phone buzzed again. Another journalist. She silenced it. And then she made a decision. Pulling out the check from her coat pocket, she looked at it one last time. Then, with steady hands, she tore it in half and smiled. Because she knew the real reward wasn't in the money. It was in knowing who she'd chosen to be. Shatter and now Babo. The next day, Emma woke up to a knock on her door. When she opened it, she found Mr. Reynolds standing there, with no cameras, no reporters. Just him, holding a small paper bag and a gentle smile. "I figured you might not want a press conference," he said quietly. "But I wanted to see you." Emma blinked, surprised. "How did you—" "Luis told me where you lived." Mr. Reynolds chuckled. "Hope you don't mind." She stepped aside, letting him in. He handed her the paper bag. "I brought you breakfast. Nothing fancy. Just eggs, bacon, and a muffin. Figured after everything, you deserved a simple meal." They sat at her small kitchen table, steam rising from their coffee cups. "I saw the news," Emma finally said. "You didn't have to tell everyone." "I wasn't trying to embarrass you," he replied sincerely. "I just wanted people to know kindness still exists." Emma looked down. "I didn't stop that night because I wanted attention." "I know," Mr. Reynolds said softly. "That's exactly why it mattered." He pulled an envelope from his coat pocket and slid it across the table. Emma hesitated. "I can't take your money." "It's not money," he said. "Open it." Inside was a simple letter, an offer of employment. Not a check. Not a handout. An invitation. "I meant what I said on TV," Mr. Reynolds told her. "I want you on my team. Not because you changed a tire. Because you showed character. And character's what builds companies." Emma's eyes welled with tears. "But I'm not qualified," she whispered. "You're more qualified than half the people sitting in suits." He smiled. "I'll teach you the business. You bring your heart." She read the letter again, hands trembling. "You don't have to decide now," Mr. Reynolds added. "But if you want a fresh start, a real chance, you have it." He stood up, placing his hat back on. "Either way, thank you. For that night, for seeing a stranger and stopping." As he left, Emma sat quietly at the table, staring at the letter. The world outside was still spinning. The reporters might still call, but in that moment, she felt peace and possibility. She didn't know what tomorrow held, but for the first time in a long time, she wasn't afraid of it. 2 weeks later, Emma stood outside the glass doors of Reynolds Energy headquarters. She took a deep breath, smoothing her thrift store blazer. It wasn't designed, but it was hers. She'd spent the past 14 days shadowing Mr. Reynolds. learning from managers, touring gas stations, and meeting employees. And today, she was officially starting her role as Community Outreach Coordinator, a position Mr. Reynolds created just for her. "You ready for this?" A familiar voice called. She turned to see Luis, the mechanic from that snowy night, grinning as he walked up. "Told you you'd be amazing." Emma laughed nervously. "Still feels like a dream." "It's not a dream, Mr. Reynolds said, stepping out of a black SUV behind her. "It's what happens when good people finally get seen." They walked inside together. The office was bustling, phones ringing, meetings happening, deals being made. But as Emma passed through, heads turned. People whispered, "That's her," they murmured. "The woman who stopped in a snowstorm. The woman who reminded the billionaire what really matters." Mr. Reynolds led her to a conference room. On the table sat binders, maps, and budgets. "We're launching a new initiative," he explained. "Affordable fuel programs, job training scholarships, grants for single parents. And you're going to help lead it." Emma stared at the materials, overwhelmed but excited. "You're serious?" "Dead serious, Mr. Reynolds nodded. "This company's going to stand for more than profits. Thanks to you." A knock interrupted them. "Sir," an assistant said, poking her head in. "Your 10 a.m. Chancery M. 4-day board meeting." He turned to Emma. "Walk with me." They entered the grand boardroom, where a dozen suits sat around a polished table. "I'd like to introduce Emma Carter, Mr. Ulray," Reynolds announced. "She's our new Community Outreach Coordinator." A few board members raised skeptical brows. "She doesn't have a fancy degree," Mr. Reynolds acknowledged, "but she has something more valuable: integrity." He paused. "And from this day forward, that's going to be the foundation of everything we do." Emma stood beside him, heart pounding. For a moment, the room was silent. Then, one by one, the board members began nodding. Later that afternoon, as Emma looked out her new office window, the snow began to fall again. She smiled softly, remembering that cold night by the roadside. A flat tire, a stranger in need, a small act of kindness, and somehow it had led here. She didn't fix his tire to change her life, but kindness had a way of circling back. And sometimes the smallest moments left the biggest marks. And if this story moved you, even just a little, remember this: kindness doesn't need an audience, but sometimes it gets one anyway. And when it does, it can open doors you never imagined, because what you give freely in the dark has a way of shining brightest when the world's watching. So, the next time life puts someone in your path needing help, be the person who stops. You never know whose life you're changing, and maybe, just maybe, it's your own. If you believe kindness still matters, hit that like button, subscribe, and share this video with someone who needs hope today. Tell us in the comments, when was the last time a stranger's kindness surprised you? Because the world needs more stories like this. And together, we're going to tell them. See you in the next one.